All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen of all ages, welcome to Nav, Air, and Scale on YouTube. This is the inaugural build online for Nav, Air, and Scale, so hope you enjoy it. Hopefully we get lots of good projects going on, but to kick this off, I've picked one of my favorite near and dear aircraft, and going in the theme of Nav, Air, and Scale, we're going to be doing something that just came out from Fightertown. Full disclosure, my name is Brian and I do Fightertown Decals, which makes it easy to get stock when needed. So here we go. Our first build is going to be the Tamiya F-14A Tomcat 1/48 scale. I would argue one of the best kits ever made, and certainly I think the best kit of my favorite aircraft, which is the F-14 Tomcat. So here we go. Let's take a look. Here is the original boxing. This is the original A boxing that Tamiya did a number of years ago. Ignore this. This was a previous project, since moved on. But here we go. Here is what is inside the box. I know you've probably seen a lot of videos covering this airplane and this build, so I'm not going to bore you with a lot of the specifics, but we're going to get into this. I've been collecting some aftermarket for this kit for a while now, so just to start us off here, we've got Quinta Studios F-14A cockpit decals. These are 3D printed decals. I was happy to help them out with some of the F-14 information, so definitely put these to good use. We've got Edward Brasson's early F-14 wheels. Since this is a early airplane I'll be doing, pre-1980s, we need the original old hubs, which Tamiya does provide in the box, but these are just a little bit better. We'll get into more detail with these as we go. Here's an ace brew. I've got a master probe that'll go on the end. I just have a hard time, probes just break all the time on me. So we're going to be using on this one the the Quick Boost IRST. This is the original cruise infrared search and track pod that the F-14 used. Very ineffective if you talk to any of the crews, but it was on some of the early aircrafts. We're going to put that on there. Well, some mask sets here. This is just to cover the difference between gold, gray, and white wings, which brings me to, I haven't even told you what we're doing. You had a little preview earlier, but we will be doing the new Fightertown Decals hot off the press 4894 jet. In this case, we're going to be using these blue Starfields up at top, and if you saw that one earlier, here we go. That will be VX-4 from the early 1970s. These were some of the very, very early production block aircraft that came to VX-4 at Point Mugu to do a lot of the test and evaluation before the squadron got it. So we'll be doing one of these aircraft with the decals here. More about those later. And because we're doing that early set, we are going to need some early items, which I know are in the box here. We're going to have to find them. All the regular kit parts. I'm sure you've seen plenty of builds of that, so I won't cover all that specific stuff. But here we go. For these early airplanes, I have BAM parts, short gun nozzle, and early beaver tail with the dielectric panels. Now there's also one of these out there from Phase Hanger, which does not have the panels, but for this build I'll be doing does have the panels. That's them there. And the short gun nozzle here is a very very unique, very early well, I would say modification, but a very early design. In fact, these jets did not have a gun in them. So moving on, we're going to use ResKit 3D printed landing gear. I'll show you those a little bit later as well. One of the reasons I'm choosing ResKit over another set I have, Detail and Wonder, is that the wheels, when we go back to these wheels, there's a very good reason why the way ResKit designed their wheels allows very easy using of these early hubs. So we have those. And then here we go, one of my favorite pieces I've gotten in recent days. These are the MCC Minicraft Collection GRU7. These are the early ones, and these have the ribbed cushions, which are the early F-14A is. Unfortunately, every kit ever made until Tamiya's late A always had the ribbed cushions, and these things were something that went away in the squadrons pretty early on. And then we have a boarding ladder here. This is actually Cocapelli boarding ladder. 3D printed, we may be using that as well. So those parts there. I originally was going to use the KA Mark 1 Pratt & Whitney exhaust set. These things are beautifully done, 3D printed. Lawrence is a great guy, and he managed to hook me up with, instead of, you see the picture, they were separate sets, top and bottom, for the exhaust tubes, but he went ahead and made those as single pieces. You can see there, whoop, parts are falling out everywhere. I love these sets. The turbines are one piece and beautifully casted, and I think they have some of the best open exhausts out there. These are just absolutely gorgeous. However, something that just came in recently from another good friend is Katran from the UK has a set. I've already been working on them, and these are 3D printed and resin cast sets. So we'll have to determine. I'm going to be using these with a little bit of modification, but we will get all into that later. Last thing on this set, this is Dave Roof's Flying Leather Necks. Let me get this open here. These are beautiful Lao 7 rails, and I bought the 1976 to 1987, which actually, since I'm building something from 1972-73, may need to switch these out, but we'll see how they work for the moment. He has every generation of Lao 7 rails out there, so if these don't work, we will get the other ones. But in the meantime, that's what I have in my stash. So, okay, here we go. Welcome back to the first part of the build. We're going to get started with the cockpit. Right off the bat, let's just dive right into it. One thing I didn't get to show when I was showing all the parts, this is actually from the Edward brass and cockpit set. This is the back wall, which I think is just one of the most beautiful pieces. To me, it does a piece as well, but I think their kit part, let's see here, just doesn't quite measure up. So I'm going to use this out of the Edward set. I thought about using the Edward brass and cockpit set, but it just takes a little bit more work, and I want to just dive right into this build. So right off the bat, here we go. We've got our Quinta 3D decals, and we're going to get started with the cockpit parts. Let's do it. All right, as we cut some parts off, one of the cool things Tamiya did in this build was they separated cockpit parts so you can build, here we go, we need this one. For each version, they can include different parts. So this is going to have some more of the parts we need here. Let's open the bags. So we'll just cut off all the parts, and then when we get there, we're going to make some cool modifications to this cockpit as well along the way. So, some people have said that the cockpit is not as well detailed as, let's just say, the AMK kit, or now that the Great Wall Hobby kit is out there, and that's true. What they did do, however, is make this thing fit absolutely perfectly. So there is no issue when you put this thing together. The detail is, it's not as detailed. However, well, one, if you're using the Quinta stuff, that doesn't matter because you're removing the detail and using that. But I think that they got the shapes so correct, and they got, when you get into it, they got all the little buttons and switches in the right place for each of the versions. So Tamiya now has the early F-14A, which covers basically early production through the late 70s. Then after that, they have the D and a late A, which is very close to the B. It has almost all the parts you need for the B. All you need is the exhaust cans and intake faces and one or two other parts. So it's really close to that. Let's go ahead, now that we have these parts off, these are the sidewalls. I just think that the detail is more than sufficient. It works out great. It's as much as I need. And then when you put Quinta on there, I just think it's the best. It's the easiest way to do it, the least amount of effort, most amount of reward, and I think it looks beautiful when it's done. So you be the judge. All right, we'll clean these up and get started. We're going to change blades here. Quinta, I really think, is kind of a game changer that's been out here in the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years maybe. There are other brands out there. I still think Quinta just gets the most the most accurate, the best color, the best print quality. I'm happy to say that I helped them out with the F-14 sets and a few other things. So that's a little bit of brand loyalty for me. That's true. But I think what they did is just stellar. One of the things I like about the curved blades is I think it's much easier to remove detail off of these panels with a curved blade. So here we go, new blade in, and this is as simple as we just start removing buttons and switches. You really do need a good smooth surface in order for the Quinta stuff to adhere to. They don't have much adhesive on their own, which is why they tell you to use either PVA or CA glue. I find both work really well, and once it's on, it's on. So I'm gonna clean up the rest of these and we'll get back in a minute. One of the fun parts with these is getting the little tiny details off of here and doing this without cutting into your fingers. Yeah, that's always a challenge. I'm not the smoothest with the knife, I'll be honest, and at some point I know it's going to cut into my thumb or finger, but that's okay. We're just going to do this as best we can and deal with the blood and carnage later. I think a sanding stick's basically going to take care of most of this stuff. And then the front cockpit. I find that one of the things I've been... Oh, there we go. Right into the blood. There we go. All right, well, quick time out to take care of the injury and be right back. So one of the things I do love using these, oh my God, I hate to say it, but I just turned 50 this last year, and these Optivisors are basically what I live in at my workbench at this point. It makes seeing things so much easier. Of course, it also makes seeing things I'm doing wrong easier. You know, one of the things here I'm going to show you guys is that I am not the best modeler. We almost named the channel Mediocre Modeler, in which case I would probably be probably still not even that great of a deal for it, but hopefully have some basic modeling skills. But I always have these grand plans and great ideas about how this is going to be the best kit I've ever built. It's going to be the best paint job I've ever done, everything along the way. Fortunately, using Fightertown Decals, I can say that have some great markings and great decals to use. Well, shoot. All right, we're going to have to take a break, stop the bleeding. We'll be back. All right, so once we have these done, we just come back in here with our file. And hopefully that should be smooth enough and ready to go. Same thing with our other parts here. It's kind of hard to see, they're tiny, but just need them to be flat. So we're going to do this like this. I'm a big fan of the easiest way possible. And I think let's just do this. And we're good. All right, get all of them done. We'll be right back. All right, now that we have most of this stuff off, we're going to come in a lot closer. We're just going to do some filing. I hate to say that I'm kind of the school of thought of good enough. I strive to be perfect. I want to be perfect. I want all my parts to be super clean. Check out Scale Scriber on Facebook, John Chung's page. That man has everything as perfect and clean as can possibly be. I don't know how it's even possible. So I would say it's impossibly clean. But over here, I'm going to go for a little bit of time and easiness. And as long as I get these things where they need to be, we're going to call it a day. That looks pretty good. It's a good surface to work with here. And we'll just keep doing this for each single part. A little bit of work put in to do this, but the result is so worth it, and it's so much easier than dealing with resin, I think. I think as long as I can work with plastic, styrene, and simple glue, I'm a very happy man. Nice thing with using this kit, or actually either of the F-14A kits to build an early 70s aircraft, is the cockpit is stock. They don't have any modifications. There's no lantern modifications with hand controllers and PTIDs. They didn't have any additional navigation equipment. This is basically everything just straight as it was from the factory, from Grumman, and unfortunately how it is for the kit. I think the prep work is kind of key and important here. So once we get these done, then we can have the fun of the painting and the gluing. But getting this stuff done to start with is where it's at. We got to deal with this one here. This one's a little tougher because it's so raised on here. What I have done before is just added a piece of plastic on top of it, and that way you don't have to cut, just add to it. But today we're going to cut this one off. The HSI and the VSI on the Tomcat are their primary displays. Later changed in the D to be MFDs, which are much better clarity and visibility. This thing was pretty basic. This is 60s technology within a 70s airplane that flew until early 2000. So, but it was still effective, and I still think one of the greatest fighters out there. So we'll get a nice looking display on this thing when we're done. All right, the last detail is coming off. Aftermarket kit manufacturers, here's a great idea for a product. Blank instrument panels ready to accept the Quinta decals. Just completely flat panels would be amazing. Got a friend actually here nearby that's been doing something like that, but he hasn't launched them, so I can't really say anything, but it would be great to see those things in use and save us all a lot of time and sanding to get these things ready. So for this top one, I'm going to cut off the sides, but then I'm going to add a piece of plastic here on the inside. We'll do that here in a minute, but I'm going to add that just because I want to keep the height. I want to keep the separation from the rest of the panel, and keep that display higher up than everything else. So, all right, let's do that. Let's grab some plastic and glue and get to work. All right, the time has come. Let's go ahead and put the panels in together. I love how Tamiya makes these recesses and makes putting this stuff together so easy. There's just mounts right in there. Except, what am I doing wrong here? There we go. All right, so here we go. We're putting these stuff in here. It's just so nice how this stuff fits right in. There's no play to it. There's no moving stuff around. It just literally fits exactly in the spot that it needs to go. And these things slide right in here. And I'm probably using way more glue than I need to or should. It's a bad habit. There we go. Let's get this in here. There we go. Look at that. Our cockpit is just about together. Okay, so while I'm getting ready to paint, I actually decided to call a bit of an audible, or at least make a change. So we're going to go ahead and use now Edward's interior. This is actually the F-14A interior set. Now, I'm not going to use any of the photo etch here. This is all flat, and while there's some nice definition to it, it's flat, and especially in 1/48 scale, I just don't think this works. So the items we're going to use here, I really like. We've got these parts here for the Rio, for the back, like go back here, and we're going to use a couple things for the front just to detail up, and then our frames for the front windscreen here are great, so we're going to use that as well. So get chopping these up, put them on, and then we can get to painting. All right, let's cut these out, and I'm just using my knife here. There's a satisfying little clink when you get the parts off of the runner. Well, actually, I really like this piece here too. be in the front cockpit. The Tamiya molded piece is not bad, but it is a little thick. So we're going to go ahead and use the photo etch for that, and we're going to see how bending goes. I've never been very good with photo etch, so this will be a challenge. I got some of my trusty Zap here. This is actually our local hobby shop's branded super glue. Let's put, see, it's just, whoop, that came out quick. So all I'm going to be using for this is actually using an old airbrush needle. It got bent up and kind of destroyed it. So we're going to try this and see what happens. This is going to be an interesting thing. I've never been very good with super glue, so this is going to be a little interesting. All right, kind of spread it along here a bit. Now this part, whoops, oh, it just lines up. Sorry, I'm kind of focusing on getting this on here and not talking while I'm doing this, so trying to look through the camera and see what I'm doing is a little bit of a challenge, but I think we're almost there. There's a little bit of a bend. If I haven't said it before, I hate working with photo etch. I suck at it, but that isn't too bad. Let's try the other side. That's probably plenty. Now the trick is getting this thing line. Oh crap. Well, looks like this piece doesn't quite want to match up to what the kit has. So we're just going to do the best we can. Put it right there. And see if we can't get this thing attached on well. The thing about super glue is you just don't have a lot of time to work with it. Once it's in, it's in. I'm going to try and touch up a little bit on here. This is where I would rather just work with any other material. 3D printed pieces would be the best. All right, we're going to hold that in. And once that's in, I think we're going to be good with this. All right, we're here 5 minutes later. This is just a pain in the ass to work with, honestly. If I let this go, you can see it's now starting to stick, but it's taken a few applications, and we're still waiting to see if this will stick. Now it looks like it might actually finally stick, but trying to get super glue and PE and styrene all together, man, I'm not a fan. While I was off camera for a couple minutes, I was probably swearing up a pretty good storm of expletives and questioning my life choices as to why I'm using PE on this. All right, we got these parts in now. We got the front end. They're okay. I'm going to add some detail. I just don't think that it adds enough to be worthwhile. Let's see, like, this one's still moving on me. Maybe it would help if I sanded the PE down a little bit. I've heard that's a good idea. May have to try it on the next one, but for now, this stuff is in here good enough. All right, thank you, Edward. That's a massive that's a massive headache and 20 minutes of my life, but it will be worth it when we paint it and the detail pops out. Coming at you. All right, let's fold some PE. We got one side done. Let's see if we can get the other one done like that. Ha-ha! What do you know? We got it folded. All right, let's put it on the kit part and see what happens next. Nice thing is they did give us this nice little divot hole, which fits right on here. And if we can do it like that, we're just gonna put a drop of CA on there. 1, 2, 3, boom. It's on. Get a little pressure. I think we have a working part. Wow, that's beautiful. I like it. I like it a lot. This one is going to have refueling probe opens. We're going to go ahead and add the refueling door here. Tamiya just makes this fit right in. No questions asked. Just pop it right in there. Let's go ahead and drop that in. And then for the back side is where we actually want to glue it in. Refueling probe stowed and in. We are ready to prime finally. All right, we're going to use Mr. Surfacer Black 1500. I love this stuff. I used every other primer out there. Nothing comes close to this. I've used SMS, which I actually do really like. I still want to thin it a little bit. I've used the Alclad. I've used Mr. Paint. I've used a few other things, but I think this is just the smoothest, easiest stuff. You can thin it down tremendously. We're getting down kind of to the low part of the bottle here. But we're going to go probably about 60-40, 60% thinner, just to get it nice and smooth. I'll give a good stir, and here we go. I'm using these little tattoo ink cups. I got to credit Duke's Models, Matt Dougal. I saw this on his site for the first time, and thought it was brilliant, actually. I think nothing works better than this. I do like using other paints that don't require thinning, but when I'm doing something like this, I think these cups are absolutely perfect. In fact, this, after buying I think 1,000 of them, is the end of the bag. Maybe it's 500, so it's time to order more on Amazon. We're going to use Mr. Leveling Thinner and mix this up a little bit. I just eyeball it, honestly. The idea is the good ratios, but I really do just eyeball it. So Mr. Leveling Thinner, here we go. And I want more thinner than paint. I like making this stuff really thin. And I just stir it up. Let's do it. I got a cup of black Mr. Surfacer 1500, and we're ready to go. This is not, and the compressor kicks right on. Gonna have to upgrade the compressor here. I let it go all the way and fill up the air before I started recording, and the second I turn the airbrush on, it comes back. So it's time for a new compressor. So the idea here is not to completely coat everything black. I just want to get a base down for the dark gold gray that's going to come over the top of it. There we go. I'm not using the Quinta on the circuit breakers on the back. I actually like the kit parts, and we'll just paint those. Get in the back here. I don't need to paint the inside of these panels because the Quinta stuff's going to go over the top of it. So go ahead and leave a little bit of space for those. All right, that looks pretty good for here. Move on to some other parts. Get the fan blades going. We're going to come back with metal paints. So we get a good base going. You probably have to gloss coat these to see. They're deep in the intake, so they are hard to see, but you know, it's just fun to get it all right. We got some cockpit parts that we're going to get here, so let's climb these up. Again, mostly just hitting the black stuff that's going to be black. Good amount of paint. Let's go ahead and give our landing gear bay area a nice black fill. And then we don't want to forget to do is get the inside of our cockpit parts here. As this will be seen, and once the cockpit's put together, it is almost impossible to get paint up in there. So let's get those all blacked out. Okay, here's where things stand at the end of day one. We've got primer on a lot of the cockpit parts here, and on at least a little bit of the landing gear bays. We're going to have to fix that up here. Moving over here, we have our cockpit parts and intake fans and some more cockpit parts. A few other little things got put together. One thing to point out on the Tomcat here, these parts, let's get in closer. This part here, these actually get glued to the top of this ramp. It doesn't show that necessarily in the instructions, but the landing gear bay is glued to this. That actually helps with the fit when we put the fuselage top on. That creates a tight fit there and makes everything come together perfectly. We're going to hold off on the center part. I'll flip this over again. Part that goes in here. One of the interesting things with this is if you put it in without the rigidity, it will bend slightly and it won't give you the exact angle for the whole, what they call the tunnel down here. So for that whole pancake tunnel, this piece, when it goes in, you have to kind of match the, if you kind of see where you can do this, you got to give a little flex. I can't really show it, but I'll show it when I put it in. You get a little flex, and that gives you the right curve and contour for all this area back here. So that's it for day one. Here's a quick look in the box. All the parts ready to be done. It's hard not to just press ahead. It's getting late. It's it's midnight here. I got to go to bed, actually. But things like the intake ramps, the tails, all these things are just straightforward construction, go fairly quickly, but add up a bunch of quick things and it takes a little bit of time. So we'll look to do that for day two. Thanks for joining me, and we'll get some rest and get back at it in the morning. See ya.